Good morning. Today's Bible story is the story of the prodigal son. It's a good one. So let's get started. Jesus told lots of stories to show us that God cares for us and loves us. One story was about a farmer who had 2 sons. "I want to leave home," said the younger son one day. "Please give me all my money." Soon the boy had packed his bag and set off. The father was very sad to see him go. The young man took a long journey to a far country. When he arrived, he spent his money, giving lots of parties. But before long, all the money was gone. And as soon as the money went, his friends disappeared too. Now the younger son had no money and no food. The only job he could find was feeding muddy, greedy pigs. He was so hungry, he even felt like eating the pigs' food. Finally, he came to his senses. "Dad has servants who are much better off than me," he thought. So he decided to go home. It was a long, weary journey. At last, he saw his house. His father was watching out for him. While he was still a long way off, his father saw him. The old man was so happy, he ran to meet his lost son. He hugged and kissed his lost son. "Father, I have done wrong," said the boy. "I left my family and wasted your money. I'm not good enough to be your son." His father stopped him. "Quick," he shouted to his servants, "bring out the best clothes for my son. Tell cook to roast the best calf. We're having a great feast to celebrate. This son of mine was lost, but now he is found." They had such a party. God is happy too, says Jesus, when he welcomes home people who are lost.
Hello and welcome. We're thinking about today's story. I wonder when the last time, you can think about the last time you were given a punishment for doing something that you shouldn't. It may have been in school when you were talking, when you should have been doing your work and the teacher made you stay in at break time to catch up. It may have been at home. Maybe you've been playing on your gadgets, your phone or a computer game, and your parents said to you, "You've got to stop now," and you carried on playing. And eventually they took it away from you and said, "Right, tomorrow you can't play on it because you didn't obey me today." If you're an adult, it might be you've been driving in a 20-mile speed area and you got caught by a speed camera going at 25 miles an hour and you have to pay a fine. Normally, when we make bad choices, there's consequences. Now let's think about what happened in this story, because there's a bit of a surprise ending. So there's 3 main characters: the dad, the oldest son and the youngest son. And the youngest son came to his dad and he said, "Dad, I want my inheritance and I want it now." Now inheritance is money, and it's money that the son would have received when his dad died. So by asking for it before his dad died, it was like wishing his dad was dead. It was very disrespectful. It was very selfish. But his dad loved him. And so he gave him the money, and the son went off, didn't he? And this story is sometimes called, it's either called the lost son or it's called the prodigal son. Prodigal means wasteful. So we know that the youngest son wasted the money. He wasted the money on things he didn't need. And when it was gone, he ended up, where did he end up? Can you remember? This might help you. He ended up working on a pig farm, which really was the lowest of the low, because he was a Jewish man, and for Jews, pigs are considered unclean animals. Now he had to clean out the pigs, and he had to feed the pigs. Now the pigs eat the kind of food that you're going to find in your waste food bin, like this. It's smelly and it's horrible. If you think of all the rubbish that's left over after your school dinners, that's pig swill. And one day he got so hungry, he was tempted to eat the pig's food. And that's when it says in the Bible that he came to himself. He realised, he woke up, he realised what he'd done. And he thought, back at my home, the servants get treated better than this. The servants get decent food. I'm going to go home, I'm going to tell my dad that I'm sorry, and I'm going to ask him if I can work as one of his servants. And so he set off. Now, while he'd been away, his dad, every day, had been looking out for him. He'd been looking out. Every day his dad had been hoping that his son was going to return. I don't think they had binoculars then, but his dad was probably like this, every day looking out. And one day he saw a dot on the horizon, and as he got closer, he realised that it was his son, and he picked up his robes and he went running out to meet his son, and he wrapped his arms around him and he said, "Welcome home." Even before the son had said sorry, his dad said, "Welcome home." And the son said, "Dad, I'm so sorry. I've sinned against God and I've sinned against you. Please take me back as a servant." And his dad said, "Come home." And when he got home, he called the servants and he said, "Get my son a ring. Give him a ring. Find him some shoes to put on his feet. And dress him up in a fine robe. And then I want you to put the bunting up, blow up the balloons, get the best food out, because tonight we're going to have a party." Then the oldest son came to his dad. He said, "Dad, what are you doing? I'm so cross, I've worked for you, I've been at home doing all the hard work, and now you're throwing a party for him?" And the dad said, "Son, I love you. Everything I have belongs to you. But this son was dead, and now he's alive. He was lost, but now he's found." Now, this story teaches us about God's awesome love, because the dad in the story is God, represents God. And, this was the dad, wasn't it? Got it muddled up. So the dad in the story represents God. And we're like the youngest son. We often turn away from God and go our own way and make bad choices. But as soon as we turn back to God, there's God with his arms open wide saying, "Come home." And he welcomes us home. And there was no punishment. There wasn't a punishment, because when Jesus died on the cross, he took all the punishment that we deserve. And that's why we don't need to be frightened of God. We can just turn to him and know that when we're truly sorry, he will always forgive us. Now, you're going to listen to a song, and then we're going to come back with a prayer idea.
Everyone
Okay, so the idea for prayer is you're going to cut out some paper. I got a bit of A4 piece of paper and I cut it in half. I sellotaped it together to make the arms. Then I drew around my hands. I've made this quite big because my hands are bigger than yours. And I've stuck them on. And then I drew around a saucer and made a head. This is the dad. This is God. And then I wrote on it, welcome home. And look what happens. We can put the hands together and it represents God giving us a hug when we turn to him and we say we're sorry. So I thought you could make something like this. And while you're making it, you could be saying some sorry prayers to God for things you've got wrong, bad choices you've made, and you will know that God is going to hug you. Okay, so now I'm going to say a prayer and I want you to say amen at the end if you want to. I'm sorry, God. God wraps us in his love each day, speaks gently to us on our way, even when we disobey. God's love is always there. Sometimes, God, I do not care. I'm selfish and I do not share. I'm sorry, God. Sometimes, God, I tell a lie or hurt my friends and make them cry. I'm sorry, God. When I'm angry, God, I shout, I scream, I stamp, and I lash out. I'm sorry, God. God wraps us in his love each day, speaks gently to us on our way, even when we disobey. God's love is always there. Amen.